Welcome into the Landon Tengwall Show, brought to you by the Student Bookstore, Downtown State College. Make sure you get all your Penn State merch needs there. Penn State 14, Ohio State 38. It's kind of close going into halftime, and Ohio State came out in the second half like men possessed. They took care of business, and it did not seem like Penn State stood a chance. And there was a lot of instances where it felt that Ohio State just had more talent than Penn State. Julian Sayin, Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith had their way with pretty much every single one of the Penn State cornerbacks. Everybody got their turn at one point or another, and there was plays to be made, and they made them consistently. We're going to get to the Penn State defense in a little bit. I thought overall, it's kind of goofy to say, letting up 38 points, but overall, it was actually a solid day fundamentally for the Penn State defense. We're going to get into it and who got beat, but the run D, it was pretty good. It was the DBs that kind of got most of the beating. But before we get into what I'm about to talk about, I just do want to say Ohio State, fantastic job. That is the best team in America. Incredibly well coached. So tip of the cap to them the rest of the way. You know who's not well coached? The Penn State offense. The play calling from Penn State offensive coordinator Andy Kotelnicki is unserious. I sat here for a couple minutes thinking of other names or terms I wanted to use that maybe were a bit more harsh on the ears, I guess you could say. But unserious is the word I kept coming back to because it literally made me laugh watching the tape this morning. So let me walk you through how I came to the conclusion that our play calling is straight up unserious. This is not a shot at him at all, but Liam Clifford, because it's not his fault he's being put in these situations. He's trying to do his best, but Andy Kotelnicki keeps doing this. Liam Clifford giving 2 Wildcat quarterback snaps in this game, both resulted in no gain. Shocker there. And then he also got a end-around pass play that I think was one of the more stupid plays I've ever seen. There was no actual, every play has a design, but the thought process of the play made no sense. It was one read and that was it. And it was pointless. It was one of the more pointless plays I've seen in a long time. But hey, I'm glad that we could get Liam Clifford, so we can find Liam Clifford 3 trick plays, but we can't find Kobe Howard any snaps. Not making sense to me at all. And it's not like we're begging for Kobe Howard to play and he's never played. And it's like, hey, we have this freshman that might be good. We don't know, but at least put him out there. We're not even begging for that. We're begging for a guy that in the last 2 games, Kobe Howard, 2 targets, 2 catches on those 2 targets for 40 yards. And in both of these games, Iowa and Ohio State, his 1 reception was the longest reception of the day for Penn State. He was given 12 reps in those 2 games. Andy Kotelnicki is the one that decides the rotations and the packages. So that is fully on him. Once again, coaching malpractice from Andy Kotelnicki. It is a real problem. Let's continue on. There is much more, you best believe. Penn State came out of the gate with that 7 offensive lineman formation. It was the first play. I love how we came out. That's great stuff. We ran pin pull, which is a form of outside zone. It was the toss play to Katron Allen. So way to start out with a bang. We get a huge gain. It's like, all right, we got some momentum going. We ran that play 3 times in the first half for 35 yards, and the final one was a touchdown. Well, guess what? Ohio State couldn't stop it. So go figure, Andy Kotelnicki does not run that play one more time in the rest of this Ohio State game. You know the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, Kotelnicki never heard that saying, I suppose. So that makes no sense to me. And by the way, that first drive, I do want to throw this in there too. This isn't as much Kotelnicki, more Terry Smith. We start out, we come out like gangbusters on the first drive. It's great. You get in Ohio State territory. It's 3rd and 7. You run the ball. Already question that there, but I'm thinking in my head, okay, maybe you run the ball on 3rd and 7 because you know you're playing with house money. This game is all about I'm coming here trying to win. The season's basically over, so we're gonna go for it. No, you run the ball. It's then 4th and 3 on Ohio State's 42-yard line to start out the game. You got a chance to grab some momentum out of the gate, and you punt it on 4th and 3 on Ohio State's 42-yard line. Inexcusable. You can say in other instances, maybe you do not go for it there, maybe. But in the instance that Penn State was in on Saturday, you absolutely go for that 100 out of 100 times. So that already kind of pissed me off watching that to start out the game. Penn State has the ball on their own 25-yard line. Down 17. It's the 4th quarter. Truly nothing to lose at this point for this Penn State team. Let's come out and, let's just go after it. No. What do we run? First down, we go screen pass, okay? Second down, we go screen pass. All right, what do we got? Third down, double end around flea flicker that results in a sack. Drive results in negative 11 yards, and Penn State punts the ball. That was the play calling, down 17 in the fourth quarter with nothing. We're not going to stretch the field. We're going to go 2 screens and then a double flea flicker. Like that's why I called it Unserious, because it's unserious. This is not like it. I'm looking at I'm like, is he actually sitting up in that booth calling this stuff? Like is he like, I don't know. Next up, Penn State comes out, their first drive of the second half, where we feature 2 wide receiver screens once again and a Liam Clifford Wildcat quarterback package on that first drive out of the second half. That's what you scheme up. Coming out of halftime, you get 15 minutes, regroup, you come out with 2 wide receiver screens and a Liam Clifford quarterback package, and a shocker that drive results in a punt. Also, a third and long is how we got to the punt, because we were running those plays, and then Ethan Grunkmeyer gets sacked because it's third and long. Ohio State can pin their ears back and rush after the quarterback. To finish off the game, 4th and goal from the 7-yard line. What do you call 4 verticals? That is where everybody is just running a vertical, just like it sounds, on the 7-yard line. And Ethan Grunkmeyer throws a pick because it's 4th down. He has to throw it, and there's absolutely nothing there for him, because you're not giving any conflicting routes. You're not doing anything. You told your guys on the 7-yard line to just run straight down the field. We're going to talk about it, but I mean, if you were a wide receiver in this offense, do you have any motivation? Are you wanting to get open? Are you wanting to get up every day and bust your hump for this offense when this is the plays that are being called for you? Ridiculous, inexcusable, malpractice, everything underneath all of that. Even the good had bad hidden in it. The 15-play, 75-yard touchdown drive where it felt like Penn State retook some momentum there for a little bit. Kotelnicki basically tried to sabotage it. Penn State's churning yards on Ohio State. They run that 7 offensive linemen, pitch formation on 3rd down, get a nice first down. So it's 1st and 10. You're in opponent territory. You're in a great place. What do? Guess what you do? You run a Liam Clifford end-around pass. That's what you do. So you do that. As I told you earlier, there was no method to that. It was one of the worst play calls I've seen in a while. And then you're sitting in 2nd and 10. What do we do from there? Maybe give the ball to Katron Allen. Let's do a quick slant. No. Liam Clifford, Wildcat quarterback, no gain, 3rd and 10. That's what you do. And we were able to overcome the bad coaching. Shout out to Grunk and also to Liam Clifford for getting open, 3rd and 10, and we convert. It's then 1st down. But we should not be sitting in 3rd and 10 where we're running 2 basically trick plays with Liam Clifford to then find ourselves, after being in 1st and 10 in good position, to then be in 3rd and 10. And we get lucky that Grunk is able to find Liam Clifford open for a 1st down. Just doesn't make sense. No, so you're able to punch it in there, but you still see how much you're putting your players in position to fail. And I think that's the overall issue that I have. And that's what makes me angry, annoyed for the players, because it's like, this is what you're being given. As a player, you have to run the play that is given to you by your coach. There's no overriding it. It's not the 1960s where the quarterback was the offensive coordinator back in the day. You have to do what your coach gives you. And that's what makes me so frustrated for these guys, because this is what they're dealing with. And it truly, I say it's unserious and I say it's funny, but like it actually breaks my heart to watch, because I see how many of these guys are rightfully so looking pretty unmotivated, because I damn sure would be unmotivated in this offense. And it took until the final drive for Grunk to finally sit back there and sling it. I don't know if that was necessarily, I mean, don't get me wrong, early on in the game, there are play calls where guys are running down the field, but nothing that was open. And so Grunk finally has taken some shots. You see the deep end to Kobe Howard, the nice corner route to Kyron Hudson. You take that shot up the seam to Khalil Dinkins, which, by the way, was absolutely a targeting on Caleb Downs. I can't believe the refs overturned that. I thought that was insane. But why does it take Penn State so long to throw the ball down the field? because you have to. That's the reoccurring issue since week one. When you do not throw the ball vertically, the defense does not have to respect anything vertically. They can come up. Anything underneath, those screen passes don't work as well when you can't throw vertically. And the run game doesn't work as well when you cannot throw vertically. And it's not even, you don't even have to complete them at that high of a clip. It doesn't have to be Ohio State 80% completion rate. You just have to at least test them so it's in their mind that you might do it. When you don't do it at all, it's, hey, we're going to bring Caleb Downs up in the box a little bit. The DBs are going to scoot up. We're going to get extra run support. So you wonder why Penn State's sitting at 2 yards per carry. Well, it's hard to get the run game going when you truly are not passing the ball down the field. The joke is that, hopefully we invent we go with the forward pass, the new invention for the Penn State offense. But, it's sad. How are we sitting here right now in a season that we thought was going to be a national championship season, and we're talking about we can barely complete a forward pass that's anything more than 10 yards down the field. Until that pass to Kobe Howard, Penn State did not attempt a pass over 20 yards. That's ridiculous, inexcusable. It's truly a problem. And as much as you can say the wide receivers aren't good or they're not creating any separation, and there might be some truth to that, they were good elsewhere. They were creating separation elsewhere. So it seems like a recurring theme here that wide receivers, really since 2021 just about, maybe you could say 2022, aren't thriving in the Penn State football offense. And so it's hard because you keep seeing new faces, and those new faces that were succeeding elsewhere are then struggling here. And then some people, not every single person that left, but you see people like Trey Wallace, Keandre Lambert-Smith that were here kind of struggling, and they go elsewhere and they find some pretty good success. So that leads me to look at the Penn State coaching. Now let's talk about Ethan Grunkemeyer for a second. Penn State's starting quarterback for the rest of this season. It's hard for me to evaluate this guy. Watching the tape, I can't put a full evaluation on Ethan Grunkemeyer because he's playing in excuse my language because I'm a little frustrated now, cover the kid's ears. He's playing in a dog shit offense at the moment. His coordinator doesn't help him out at all. Borderline sabotages him. I'm not saying that Kotelnicki purposely is sabotaging, but it almost feels that way with how bad, how truly horrific this play calling is. His wide receivers are unmotivated because we won't throw a pass past 10 yards. The offensive line's pass blocking is subpar at best, and there's a lot of times where there's pressure all up in Ethan Grunkmeyer's face. And he has no true run game to lean on because we can't run the ball efficiently because we're once again not passing the ball down the field. So on top of that, by the way, he's faced in his 2 starts 2 top 10 defenses in all of college football at their place. So yes, I can agree. I'm not going to be naive and say Ethan Grunkemeyer has been great. No, he has not been good at all. But I'm not ready to say that he's not a good quarterback or he can't be the future of Penn State, because he is in a not good, a horrific situation currently where we are sitting at this moment. To always be fair, because we're always fair here at the Landon Tengwall Show, I'll give Kotelnicki credit. His usage of Nick Singleton was great. That did make sense. The idea was get him in space, get him the ball in space, and allow him to just run straight ahead. Don't make him have to choose and find a hole and read things. Just make it easy for him. And there's a couple really good plays that came from that. So that's exactly how you're supposed to use Nick Singleton at this point in time. So good job there. This Penn State offensive line had some troubles. Drew Shelton got beat a couple times in pass pro. He is missing on his punch right now. Going against Arvell Reese too. Credit to Arvell Reese. Love watching that dude. One of the best all-around linebackers in college football. I'm a fan of Arvell Reese going the route of the Abdul Carter, Micah Parsons, turning into a edge rusher because he's very good at it. But there was 2 times. One it was a true sack that Drew Shelton led up, and the other one was a pressure where he's just not hitting on his punch. He is missing completely, and not to get into the weeds of this, but he is, I have always thought this is a bit of a problem, haven't talked about it too much. He is religiously a 2-hand puncher every single time. And most people think that's what you're supposed to do. Offensive line play has evolved, and now the main thing, your fastball should be independent hands, meaning that you go 1 or 1, it's never 2 at the same time, or not never, but very rarely. That should be your switch up, and Drew Shelton is always 2-hand punching, and I knew it was going to get him in trouble eventually, and he is really struggling this year. Coach Trout has to work on that with him. He needs to be an independent hand puncher, not just a two-hand puncher. But like I said, great job by Reese and some of those other guys. And then also Drew Shelton's getting tossed in the run game right now. There was a couple times where I thought Penn State and Katron Allen would have been able to run right through that B gap, the left side B gap. But Drew Shelton was like this and then kind of got tossed out of the way. There was probably 2 or 3 times where Kenyatta Jackson, where Arvell Reese just completely shucked him to the side, went in and made the tackle. And that was part of the reason the run game was struggling. The interior was getting pushed back. Shout out to Caden McDonald, number 98 for Ohio State. Him, a couple other guys had a really, really good day against this Penn State offensive line. There's a reason we only rushed for 50, 60 yards because they were stout up front. But Drew Shelton had some issues. TJ Shanahan as well really had some issues inside against Edric Houston, Ohio State's defensive tackle. They were kind of doing whatever they wanted. And so when Penn State couldn't get that initial push on the interior, it made it really hard. Katron had to cut it outside, and there wasn't a lot there all day in the run. I mentioned earlier that we gained 35 yards off of those 3 plays where we ran the pin and pull with the 7 offensive linemen. That's where pretty much all of our rushing yards came from. There really wasn't anything else for Penn State there. So I told you guys the 3 main things that Penn State had to do. One of them was you have to run the ball well. I told you the past 2 years of how bad it was rushing against Ohio State, and it was the same formula this time. You're getting held to under 70 yards rushing. You are not going to beat Ohio State. And I struggle. I'm sad watching this offensive line. As much as I've said everything and they're not being helped out, they're also just not being physical. This is not a physical offensive line. This is not a good offensive line right now. You guys know, it pains me to say that. There's nothing more I'd rather be doing up here than sitting up here banging the table saying this is the best offensive line in college football, and these dudes are moving guys off the rock and making film cut-ups of a combo block where they're taking guys 10 yards down the field. I don't want to say this, but when you come to the Landon Tengwall show, I'm going to give you the truth. This is not a good offensive line. There is really very little intensity, and that's from week 1 on. And so I don't know where that got lost, but it definitely got lost because we got some issues up front. And it's sad to say because of how good we thought this offensive line and run game was going to be. It just went poof, kind of like the rest of the 2025 football season for Penn State. So I'm sad to wrap it up on the offense. I'm disgusted with the play calling and the situation that the players are being put in first and foremost. Yes, the execution is not there at all, but it's very hard to execute when you're not being put in positions to win. And not only that, once again, you're being really put in positions to almost lose. You're being put at a deficit if you're a lot of this Penn State offense. All right, let's talk Ohio State offense, Penn State defense real quick. Julian Sayin is the best quarterback in college football. I was tweeting about it yesterday. I said I think him and Mendoza at Indiana are neck and neck. I'll give it to Sayin. He does have 2 of the best wide receivers in all of college football, but it's evident this guy is beyond accurate. Not only an elite thrower, but his footwork and his pocket presence under pressure is next level. He looks like a third-year quarterback that's been playing for a long time. I'll give you the stat. Penn State's defense generated 15 pressures. Penn State actually did a really good job getting after Julian Sayin yesterday. They just couldn't finish it off. 15 pressures, 0 sacks. So got to give credit to Julian Sayin for evading a lot of these sacks. Like I said, his movement, his calmness in the pocket is fantastic, but Penn State has to finish. They have to finish a lot of those different reps where they get in the backfield and you have him dead to rights and you let him escape. Specifically thinking about the one play with Denai Dennis Sutton and Keon Wiley. So it was 7-10. This was the first drive after Penn State just went 75 yards, 15 plays. As I said, kind of stole some momentum back. Ohio State, 3rd and 5 on their own, about 30-yard line. It's like, hey, you stop them here, you get the ball back. Who knows? You drive down and might go up 14-10. Well, you don't get off the field. Denai Dennis Sutton comes free. Keon Wiley comes free. Julian Sayin kind of shakes both of them. I thought it was a bad effort by Denai Dennis Sutton, and Keon Wiley just kind of shook out of his shoes there. Sayin scampers for a first down, and then it kind of took off from there. So the tackling too as a whole has been a problem for this defense. I thought whenever you're playing an Ohio State team, You have to be able to tackle well. That's one of the 3 or 4 things I thought was a non-negotiable for this Penn State team. It was to beat Ohio State or be in the game. You had to run the ball well. You didn't do that. You had to win the turnover battle. You didn't do that. It was tied. You had to not have missed tackles. I think you had, what it seemed like from what I watched, well over 10 missed tackles. If you're in the double digits on missed tackles, you're in a bad place. And you had to not allow, or maybe even just one truly explosive play, we'll say over 40 yards. We allowed 3 of them. So all of that put together, there was no chance if you didn't do any of those, you were never going to be in this game, and that's why Penn State was not in this game right after halftime. But I'll say this too. Outside of that 50-yard run at the end of the game by Ohio State, the run defense was pretty solid. As I said earlier, everybody was kind of where they needed to be. Ohio State really has struggled to run the ball this year, so I don't think it's a great measure. That's probably, I would say, the worst part of this Ohio State team is their rushing attack. But still, it was a job well done. People filled their holes, and it was kind of right at the end there where Penn State found some struggles. But the main issue was Penn State's DBs faced off against the best quarterback in America, and I think the 2 best wide receivers in America. The wide receiver that's probably, I think, might be the first wide receiver off the board this coming draft class in Carnell Tate, and then Jeremiah Smith absolutely will be the first wide receiver off the board in 2027. So it was far too much for these DBs, specifically the cornerbacks, to handle. Every single person got it from Tate or Smith at one point or another. And Ohio State was just simply the better coach team, and you saw the talent gap there between Penn State's DBs and those Ohio State wide receivers. Do give a shout out to Zakee Wheatley. He's always been good. So he's the one person that didn't really got necessarily, but all the other cornerbacks had themselves a little bit of a rough day there. Now, one player that really stood out on defense was Chaz Coleman. Coleman looked fantastic rushing the passer. His patented spin move looked great always, but only 15 snaps. He had only 10 pass rush reps, and I checked this. There was really only, out of those 10 pass rush reps where he was getting to rush the passer, only 8 of them were they like true dropbacks, because on 2 it was just like a quick out by Julian Sayin. So off of his true 8 pass rush reps that he was given by this defense, he got a pressure on the quarterback on 3 of them. So on 3 out of his 8, he gets pressures. You got to play him more. I don't know what this thing is, and it seemed like it was a thing with Franklin, but we're still doing it where we're not playing the young players that are succeeding. I don't get it. I truly don't get it. I don't get how he's only getting 15 snaps. I don't know if you're trying to like hide him and get him at a better price to get him to return so he doesn't have like as good stats. That's the only thing I can come up with, because if you want to win games, Chaz Coleman should be on the field almost every single play. It's not like he's some huge liability in the run game. I love Zariah Fisher. That's my guy. But there was multiple times he was just completely caved in by this offensive line and these tight ends. I think Chaz Coleman could have done just as good of a job, and he's a much better pass rusher. Don't know why you don't have him out there. Now, another true freshman defensive end that I think that PSU has to keep is Ivan Kemaju, number 99. Been playing fantastic. Has really gotten in the backfield a couple different times, a couple TFLs against Iowa and Ohio State. That is someone you need to keep. Already looks the part. Really, really talented player there. So especially if Chaz Coleman, if he gets away in the portal, you need to put all the chips in on Ivan Kemaju, because I think he's a really talented guy. I've seen him work some great pass rush moves too. That is someone you want to make sure you keep around. So I figured we'll finish this thing off with my 4 candidates of must-keep players for Penn State in 2026. I'll go, and then you guys can go in the comment section. Kobe Howard, Chaz Coleman, Ivan Kemaju, and Tony Rojas are my 4 must-keep players that you have to find a way. Whoever this next head coach is, you got to retain them. Let me know your 4 players down in the comment section below. Once again, credit to Ohio State. Incredibly talented team. Caden McDonald, Arvell Reese, ton of different guys. I already said it. Sayin, Tate, Carnell, Jeremiah Smith, all of them. Fantastic game. So we will be doing a film breakdown on this Penn State defense tomorrow on the For the Blogger YouTube channel. So be on the lookout for that. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.